Now, domestically, one of the big stories of the day is the Leicester manager's job. It seemed that you wake up this morning, look at your newspapers, it seemed Graham Potter's in the box seat. But in the last couple of hours, it's emerged that Steve Cooper, former Nottingham Forest manager, is very much the favourite. So we thought we would check in with Leicester City fan, our man in the East Midlands, Mr. Geoff Peters, of course, official scorer of the birthday spread. Good afternoon, Geoff.
Good afternoon to you, chaps.
So, how are you feeling about this? I mean, hopefully we're going to get hold of Max. He's a busy man. He's in the building delivering news to one of our stations at the moment. But if he can pop in, we'll speak to him. But he did chat to us before, so we know how he's feeling. But as a Leicester fan, do you have any issues with a former Forest man becoming your manager?
From that point of view, no, absolutely none. If you look at Martin O'Neill, he was a European Cup winner with Forest. He came into Leicester and he worked wonders. He got Leicester into the Premier League, 4 top 10 finishes, 3 League Cup finals. They won 2 of those. So no problem with that. And I remember in 2012, Leicester spent £1 million on a Forest player. And there was talk from some fans at the time saying, well, he's fat, he's slow. This is a waste of money. 2 years later, Wes Morgan is lifting the Championship title, and 2 years after that is lifting the Premier League title. Yeah. So the whole Leicester Forest thing, it is an issue for some people, but it's not an issue for me at all.
I wonder what happened there with Potter. He must have been in the frame, mustn't he? I mean, there's no smoke without fire, and everybody was reporting that he was going to take the job or considering the job. So what do you think happened there?
Well, I think there's 3 main names in the frame: Graham Potter, Carlos Corberán, and Steve Cooper. And I think that Graham Potter is probably the number one choice, and I think that would be the choice that most fans would probably like. Carlos Corberán, in terms of the style that he plays as well, people could see that as a natural fit. I think for some fans with Steve Cooper, they feel that perhaps the quality of football isn't good enough. The problem Leicester have got is they're going to start the season with 6, 8, 10, 12-point deduction. They've had issues with the finances as well, which has caused them to get into this situation. So then, while it's a Premier League job and that is appealing, it's not quite as appealing as perhaps some other clubs. Steve Cooper and Graham Potter, there wouldn't be any compensation to pay. With Carlos Corberán, there would be, and of course that is something that they have to factor in. I think ideally they would probably like Graham Potter. Is Graham Potter waiting to see what happens in the European Championships, and maybe there's a vacancy with England, and he might want to throw his hat into the ring with that? Has the Steve Cooper thing come up from Leicester's point of view to maybe try and hurry up Graham Potter, or are they genuinely interested? I think that those 3 are the ones that they are mainly focusing on. So, listen, this is what happens with managers and players when they get linked with this club, and then someone else gets linked, and you never quite know. I think fans just want a bit of clarity, really, in terms of who is going to be leading them into the Premier League.
Geoff, you say that the cross from Forest to Leicester isn't an issue, and say Max Scott, who's our resident Forest fan here, said, I said, would Cooper get the bird if he came back to the? He said, not at all. I love him for what he did. Personally, I wouldn't act like that because he did a great job for us. But
you know what fans are like.
Do you know what can happen if he comes into Leicester and it doesn't go well? That's always a stick to beat him with. It's the old Rafa Benitez thing at Everton, isn't it? It's always like, if it goes well, fine, but if it doesn't, then they say, well, he's a Forest man, what did we expect? So it does add something to the mix.
Yeah, but he's not really a Forest man. He also managed Swansea. He managed England under-17s and he took England to the under-17 World Cup title. So he's not just intrinsically a Forest man. He spent a couple of years as manager there. And look what he did there. He picked up the club when they were bottom of the Championship. They had no points, or 1 point or 2 points after about 7 games. He got them promoted that season, which was just an incredible turnaround in form. He kept them in the Premier League, and he left last season when they were, 16th or 17th in the Premier League. And I genuinely think he would have kept them up. I think some of the criticism from Leicester fans towards Steve Cooper has been so over the top. There are other issues with the club at the moment in terms of how they handled, perhaps not getting rid of Brendan Rodgers sooner, the relegation from the Premier League, the financial problems that they've got into in terms of season ticket prices for the forthcoming season. There's a lot of pushback from fans on that at the moment because prices have gone up. So the club do need a bit of good PR, to be honest. And Steve Cooper perhaps wouldn't be the good PR that some fans might want. But I don't think he's this terrible manager that some of the fans paint him out to be.
No, he's definitely not that.
Excellent.
I mean, he'd also be in the England frame, I reckon, because he's an FA man. Geoff mentioned that.
Yeah, and that's the way they promoted
thing.
before. I mean, he's won a trophy with England, and not everybody can say that. Well, very few people can say that. So, Geoff, no birthday spread tomorrow because we're live at the Box Park ahead of England. So we'll catch up with you next week, if not before. Thanks very much.
Look forward to it. Take care, boys.
There we are. That's Geoff Peters there, our man in the East Midlands, on the news that Steve Cooper would appear to be well set for the Leicester job. But he makes a good point. I mean, if you're going in not knowing how many points you're going to lose.
A very attractive job, to be really honest.
It is in many ways, but at the moment, in these circumstances, maybe less so. But if you could go there and keep them up and consolidate, they've got some very good players. We shall see.
Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.